You know, I've been thinking a lot about the role of government lately. It's one of those things that's so ingrained in our lives that we sometimes forget to question it. Like, why do governments even exist in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we know they maintain order and all that, but what's the fundamental reasoning behind their existence?
Well, at the core, governments exist to maintain order, protect our rights, and provide services that individuals or private businesses can't efficiently handle alone. It's kind of like the glue that holds society together.
Right. Makes sense. Without some sort of governing body, we'd probably have chaos. No laws, no enforcement, no public infrastructure. Can you imagine trying to drive on roads that no one maintains?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about roads. Think about things like public education, healthcare, sanitation. These are services that benefit everyone, but might not be profitable for private companies to provide universally.
So true. And I guess different governments have different structures, democracies, monarchies, authoritarian regimes, but their core functions are generally the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. Regardless of the structure, governments typically have five core functions: law and order, protection and defense, public services and infrastructure, economic management, and protecting rights and freedoms.
Yeah. Let's break that down a bit. How do governments enforce laws? I mean, we have different legal systems across the world, like common law, civil law, even religious law. How does that play into it?
Well, governments use police forces and courts to maintain law and order. In democracies, laws are created by elected officials and are supposed to be enforced
Right.
fairly. But in authoritarian states, sometimes laws serve more to protect those in power rather than the public.
That's a bit unsettling. So, the enforcement of laws can vary greatly depending on the type of government.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's crucial for a legal system to be just and fair to maintain public trust. Otherwise, you risk people losing faith in the system entirely.
And that ties back into protecting rights and liberties, doesn't it? In democracies, we have constitutions or charters that safeguard civil liberties like free speech, religion, and privacy.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
But in authoritarian regimes, these freedoms can be suppressed in the name of security or control. It's a delicate balance between maintaining order and respecting individual rights.
Speaking of services, how do governments decide what public services to provide?
Well, governments fund and operate essential services like schools, hospitals, fire departments, and infrastructure like roads and bridges. These are typically paid for through taxes, ensuring that basic needs are met for all citizens.
Right. But not all countries provide the same services, do they? For example, some have universal health care, while others rely more on private healthcare systems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's often a reflection of a country's political ideology and priorities. Some prioritize a broader safety net, while others focus on individual responsibility.
And that leads into economic management, doesn't it? Governments regulate industries, manage inflation, and stabilize currency. How do they balance that with promoting economic growth?
It's a complex juggling act.
Mm-hmm.
They have to regulate business practices to prevent economic collapse, like overseeing financial markets and enforcing labor laws. At the same time, they want to encourage innovation and growth. Central banks play a big role here by controlling inflation, interest rates, and currency stability.
And don't forget about welfare programs. Some governments provide unemployment benefits, food assistance, things like that to support those in need.
Yes, social safety nets are crucial for addressing inequality and helping people get back on their feet. But again, the extent of these programs can vary greatly between countries.
It's interesting how the debate over government size and role comes into play here. Some people argue that bigger government with more services is better, while others think that a smaller government allows for more individual freedom and economic growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like two sides of the same coin. Both have valid points, and the ideal balance might differ depending on the society and culture.
But don't you think sometimes governments overreach? I mean, isn't there a risk of too much regulation stifling innovation and personal freedoms?
That's a fair critique.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a point where too much government control can hinder progress. It's important for governments to avoid unnecessary interference while still protecting citizens and maintaining order.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why political discourse and civic engagement are so important. By participating in elections and staying informed, citizens can influence how their government operates.
Speaking of which, what's your take on government's role in global affairs? How significant is that?
Oh, it's hugely significant.
Yeah.
Governments engage in foreign policy through diplomacy, forming treaties, and negotiating trade agreements. They also participate in international organizations like the UN, NATO, and WTO, which play roles in global stability and cooperation.
And then there's foreign aid and sanctions, right? Governments can provide assistance to other nations or impose economic restrictions.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
These tools can be used to promote humanitarian efforts, influence international behavior, or sometimes, unfortunately, to exert power.
It's a complex web, isn't it? How governments interact on the global stage can have ripple effects worldwide.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's why it's important for governments to act responsibly, both domestically and internationally. Their decisions can impact not just their own citizens, but people around the world.
You know, sometimes I feel like individual citizens don't realize the power they have to influence government actions.
I agree.
Right.
Civic engagement is crucial. By voting, voicing opinions, and holding leaders accountable, we can help shape policies that reflect our values and priorities.
It's empowering to think about. Maybe we should all take a more active role in understanding and participating in government.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, governments are meant to serve the people. The more we engage, the better they can fulfill their core functions, maintaining order, protecting rights, and providing essential services.
But do you think governments will always prioritize the well-being of their citizens? History shows that's not always the case.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's why transparency and accountability are so important, and why it's vital for us to stay informed and involved.
Well, this has been a really enlightening conversation. It's made me appreciate the complexities of government a lot more.
Same here.
Right.
It's a vast topic, and we've only scratched the surface, but understanding these basics is a good start.
Definitely. Maybe next time we can dive deeper into one of these areas like economic management or international relations.
I'd love that. There's so much to explore.
All right, let's plan on that. Until then, let's keep questioning and learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
After all, an informed citizen is the cornerstone of a healthy democracy.